Ta-da! Hello. I'm back. Yeah, buddy. Somebody asked me if I had anything really like a mountaintop Moses kind of a thing to share. You've been away and you get the white hair and all that, and you come back and you're smarter. But I had to think about it for a second. I was like, I'm not quite sure yet. I think I'll just share whatever that is next week. And then they said, well, nobody's going to care next week because, I was like, all right, well, so I'll share this little piece. I really believe it is good for a person to give themselves a little slot to just stop for a while. And not everybody can do that for 6 or 7 weeks at a time. I mean, come on, let's be real. That's once every 10 years or something, But to just make a space for God to work with you through some of the stuff that's happened. I'm very good myself at letting stuff just kind of happen around me and not really working it out. There's always more stuff. Tomorrow's always coming. There's always more snow to clear. There's always more stuff. So it's really easy to just kind of But it's actually good for a person to stop and actually walk through, wow, what did that really mean? What did that do to my life? How did that affect yada, yada, yada? And so I would encourage you to make a little space for that in your life someplace, because you never really know the power of the conclusion you may come to. And all the stuff has been there in your hands, and God has shown you things, and you're just kind of I don't know if I need to do anything with that right now. It might be time. So, just putting that out there. All right, who wants to talk about trouble? Why do y'all like that? Listen, I'm just a preacher. I'm not a fortune teller. So when I talk about trouble, I'm not predicting some mega apocalyptic event for your life or something. Okay, is that? I know some people they tune in and they hear, and as soon as they hear something kind of negative sounding from the preacher, oh no, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to deal with something's coming. I'm like, look, when it comes to trouble, you've already had some. And you will continue to have trouble throughout your life. You have trouble every day. Some troubles are bigger than others. And the reason I want to share this is because, number one, I'm going to do the letter of James for the next several weeks. We're going to work our way right through. Yeehaw! Yeah, that's right, full send. And the first thing that James deals with in his letter is trouble. If you don't know anything about James, not me, the other guy, okay, James was Jesus' brother, his natural-born brother, and we don't know an awful lot about James, except that when Jesus was doing his ministry on the earth and doing his thing, his brothers, plural, just didn't buy it. They're like, nah, you're not that big of a deal. You're a brother. Come on, you're going to treat you different? I don't think so. And then we also know that they pretty much kept that line until Jesus died, and then something really cool happened, and then they had a very big change of heart. And so this is James speaking to all of the scattered believers throughout the nations. He says in 1 verse 2, he says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds." What? Say it. No, that's got to be a misprint. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. Talking about trouble. You have troubles, consider it a good thing. Why? Well, because you know that the testing of your faith develops what? Perseverance. Yeah, perseverance. I am just so excited about having some perseverance. I'm like a little kid on Christmas opening up grandma's gifts and, oh, look, it's underwear. It's kind of I know that this is good in case of an emergency, but this is not the sort of thing that you get excited about. Perseverance, when am I going to use that? Oh, well, in case you have a problem, you really need to push through. Great. Why do we need perseverance so badly? Well, listen, he says perseverance must finish its work. Read that again. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Then he gets into lacking wisdom. It's just boom, boom, going into wisdom. I don't want to talk about wisdom yet. I will. But what is he saying? He's saying, look, your life with no trouble equals no maturity. If you lived your life and you just, believed in Jesus suddenly, and then you never had any challenges to deal with, you would stay just as weak as you were the moment that you first believed, when God first brushed you off and found you, and that's not cool. He's not going to leave you just to stay in this weakened condition until you drop someday. No, we're going to work on some stuff. And so God apparently allows us to experience some trouble. Do you believe me? You should, because you're doing it. You have it. It's not really like a big theological argument. I believed, I've never had any trouble since. Well, you've got a lying problem then. So, no trouble means no maturity. You can't stay where you are. You can't just stay as weak as when God first found you. You're like, oh, I can too. You know what? Jesus loves me, end of story. Back to my regularly scheduled programming. Well, James also says something very important about handling trouble that you've had, handling trouble that's coming, that reveals a big secret about why it's important to handle the trouble the right way. Why trouble, although trouble itself may come in the form of very sinful, terrible things people have done to you, said about you, disappointed you, neglected you, abandoned you, etc., that doesn't make all of those things good, what they did, but the trouble itself can be used to do a very beautiful thing in you. And this draws attention to it. And you've got to bear with me for a second. I know, you're like, oh, come on, just cut it up nice and neat, mince it up for us. I'm trying, but you listen to this. James 1:13, when tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. In other words, look, you're going through the trouble, and then you're tempted to get all mean and nasty, or, unleash hell on earth, or turn into somebody you don't recognize. Okay, don't stop and go, what's coming out of me is now God's fault. If you didn't let the trouble come, I'd be wonderful. Just don't do that. Okay? He says, but each one is tempted when, by his own evil desire, he's dragged away and enticed. Then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it's full grown, gives birth to death. But what he's saying is, look, the tempting was already in there. And when stuff comes, trouble comes, you have a decision to make. Everybody has this decision to make. Will I use my trouble as an opportunity now to blame God for doing the thing that I've actually wanted to be doing all the time? Or will I take this opportunity to let trouble show me a little bit about the weakness that's still in me? It shows me a little bit about my character issues. Shows me a little bit about what still hasn't been built yet. Which will I do? You know you and I know me. I know kind of what I want to do. But I also know what I must do. And if I'm believing James, I have to look at the troubles in my life and go, you know what? I may not be able to control this situation, but I certainly can look within and see what's going on inside me and see some things I couldn't ordinarily see. That can be a very beautiful thing. Trouble's your chance to reveal a little bit of your weakness and then go on the attack. Now, there are people who would say, well, yeah, but look, sin and desire and all, the nastiness of our hearts and all that stuff like that only seems to come out when we have trouble. So, doesn't God bear a little bit of responsibility for that? Just back up for a second. Just back up for a second. You're telling me that you only get sinful in bad times? I'm telling you what, I think good times are just as responsible for sin as bad times. When things are rolling and you're feeling prosperous and you've got no problems, no issues, you're just like, you can't do any wrong, right? Everything seems to be flowing. If you're doing something wrong, God will stop you, right? And you didn't, so you keep going. People have gotten into just as much trouble and issue during the good times as the bad times, if not more. What am I trying to say? We've got to stop blaming our troubles for the stuff that still needs work and comes out of us. Oh, I'll be better if only I didn't have the trouble. Would you? No, but now you have an opportunity to deal with it. Yeah. Truth is, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think about trouble, I think about our character sometimes. It's sort of like having a septic system. You live out in the country someplace, you got a septic, you know what I'm talking about? Some of you don't even know if you have a septic. Well, then you'll get this, right? You're like, nobody cares about what's going on underneath the surface until the crap starts to pool up, right? Nobody cares about that stuff because it's invisible, it's underneath. But then when trouble hits, all of a sudden we become very aware that there's a problem. It's your opportunity to find out where things are at. And I don't mean to gross people out or anything, but, well, maybe I do. But it's like a couple of years ago, all of a sudden the drains all quit working in my house, and I called somebody up, and I'm like, you want to come deal with this? And they asked me a question. They said, how long has it been since you last pumped the tank? I was like, what? No, I know that that's a thing, but I don't know. I bought my house. I've been there like 6 or 7 years, and things were going along fine. So we opened the thing up, and he comes back in. He's like, well, we just made it. Okay, but I want to tell you, you want to check on that thing about once a year just to see how things are going, right? And if it had gone a whole lot longer, it would have ruined your entire leach field, and we would have had to come in here and dig up the whole yard, and probably would have been $10,000 and gravel and trucks, and I'm like, it's sometimes good to know how things are going on the underside before they get so bad, before the pressure is on. Real pressure. And he says this. He says, after desire is conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it's full grown, gives birth to death. Like if it's let go long enough, it could change a person's heart. It can turn you into somebody. It has a direction of its own that is taking you in. It's the opposite direction of where you're supposed to be. You've got to pay some attention. That's why troubles can be a beautiful thing, because they don't quite let you forget where you're at. I know some of you are tempted to hate your troubles, to maybe hate people that have caused trouble for you. And I'm not saying, again, that things that people have done to you were good. Because if it wasn't good, it wasn't good. It may have been an opportunity for something beautiful to happen, though. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not super spiritual 24/7. I'm just like, like a dude, right? I'm a dude, okay? And so when trouble hits me, like as I may be centered and I may, be practicing the disciplines of a Christian to guard myself and all that stuff, I have weak spots and weak moments, and sometimes trouble hits me, and it hits me hard enough or it feels heavy enough. I just do what everybody else in the world does when trouble hits you. You know what I say? Ow. Stop that. Leave me alone. Get out of my hair. I mean, is that natural? I mean, how many people, when they run into some difficulty, do a very deep dive spiritual analysis of their character? No. You do what you do when you're a little kid on a long car trip in the car. You just keep asking, are we there yet? Is this going to be done soon? When do you expect us to get there, Father? How much longer do we have to go without a snack? That's what we do. We're not being all introspective. We're just like, how long is this going to take? ETA, please. But something may happen to you in time. And this is a very, very good thing. It doesn't feel like a very, very good thing, but it is a very, very good thing. Repeat after me. This is a very, very good thing. This is a very, very good thing. Thank you. Wow. You start to give up on understanding everything, don't you? I mean, you try good and hard for a while, but eventually you kind of tire of it. It's exhausting. Waiting for the answer. How long? How long? How long? Explain yourself. Explain the situation. I'm not guaranteeing that you have done it or will do it quickly, but you may at some point get to this point where you stop asking, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And you start asking a different question. What am I supposed to do here? What am I supposed to do? What do you want from me? What do you want? And it is no coincidence that right after James talks about trouble, he launches right into this sentence about wisdom. He says, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. But when he asks, he must believe and not doubt, because he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That man should not think he will receive anything from the Lord. He's a double-minded man, unstable in all that he does. If you can get to a point, if you have gotten to a point in your trouble where you're willing to ask, what am I supposed to do here? Oh, you're in a very good place. You're in the most beautiful place of your life. Because you want more than anything to know, what does God want from me? You've given up on understanding God's plans, and you've exchanged it for being desperate just to know what God's will is for you. Oh, you want to get there. That's a place we're all trying to get to. We're clawing and we're busying ourselves and we're distracting ourselves and we're asking deep theological questions, and some of that's great, but honestly, this is the very place that all of us need to get to and stay put. God, what is it you'd have me do now, here, in this situation? If you want to know, James says, God would like to tell you. He would. He'd be happy to help you through that, because that is exactly the place that he's been trying to bring you to and keep you in for your entire life. He is only too willing to share. But James also says, don't go to God casually looking for an answer. What does that even mean? The double-mindedness, and you ask, but you don't really expect. What is that like? The best metaphor I have is, when you go to Walmart and you're looking for the thing, and it's kind of like a different thing, and you're like, I'll just find somebody. But then you have that moment of pause where you're like, I'm probably going to ask, and they're probably not going to have any idea where the thing is. You don't really expect them. You think maybe they might kind of sort of lead you in the right direction. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, well, never mind. I'm sorry if you worked at Walmart. But, it's kind of like that. I catch myself sometimes in stores. I know I'm weird, but I'll ask somebody about a thing, and I've stopped waiting for the answer almost as soon as they've started talking because I don't even really believe that they know what I need them to know for me. It's kind of like I just did it to check the box and be able to tell my wife, did you ask anybody for help? Yeah, I asked. They weren't very helpful. So I could just keep going in the direction and do the thing I was already going to do, which was go aisle by aisle through the entire store and waste my entire day. I don't know why I want to do that, but I want to do that. He says, don't be like that. If you really are desperate to know what you should do in this situation, then ask Him. But don't just ask Him and then just lollygag through life. Like, ask Him and then keep your eyes peeled. Like, start looking for the answer. And I don't know what route the answer is going to take. I mean, you might just be praying and God says, hey, here's a thought. Did you think of this? Zoom, download it. Mike got it. Boom. Wow, in the cloud. Wow, God gave him the thing in the cloud, and now he knows, I should have known that all along. Why didn't I pray sooner? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I've had so many moments like that. Mike's had moments like that. He shared them with you over the years. All the times, and I'm picking on Mike, he felt so foolish because he's pulling his hair out and fretting and pacing, and I've seen him do it too. He's very good at pacing. He walked back and forth. I mean, he's wearing a place in the porcelain out on the floor. That's his little track, okay, if you see that out in front of his old office. And then he'd come around and tell a story. He says, you know what, I really just stopped, and I spent some time in prayer, and I prayed about the thing. And it was like that night I knew I had to stop thinking that, and I had to make a call and just say this, and the thing was over, and I just knew what I was supposed to do. That's what we're looking for. And maybe you find that answer in the Word. Maybe because you've got the discipline to actually search the Word before you need the Word, and you've kind of built that little discipline into your life. There's the Word that's ready to be used by God and just brings it to mind. I mean, maybe you go and listen to somebody like me and you just, bam, you got an answer you didn't have before. Maybe God does download it. Maybe somebody comes alongside you and says, I was praying for you, and I really believe I have to tell you this. This is important. And they tell you, and it just, changes your whole perspective. But none of that is possible unless you ask. So ask. Ask. Maybe you don't have any trouble right now, but there's tomorrow. Right? And maybe you're like a super trouble-free person. You're a very good personal manager. I'm sure some of you are out there. Look around in the room. I guarantee somebody else sitting around here is not. And they are going through it, and it probably isn't even all their fault. In fact, it's probably like this much their fault, and 90% a bunch of other stuff that people have done. Boy, couldn't they use your help right now? Couldn't they use your help asking Him on their behalf? Couldn't they use the good advice of a friend who really cares to say, you know what, I know it would be really easy to just overlook and get stuck in the mire of all the nasty and all that, but let me go with you. Let's ask God together about your situation, and then let's keep our eyes peeled for what's going to come. And the beauty of that is, get this, when you do that, no matter what the answer is that you are seeking, you can rest assured right now you are in exactly the place that you're supposed to be. Because you're just desperate to know what God's will is for your life. And then, get this, you can look at some of the trouble. It's not going to come natural at first, but you can start to look at some of the troubles that you've gone through and say, you know, if those were used to lead me to this place, I could consider that a good thing. I could be grateful for that, to get to this place, to have peace in my heart knowing that God's will is first in my heart right now. I could consider that a good thing. I could go to sleep at night on that. And it wouldn't make the sad things less sad. Exactly. You know, it wouldn't necessarily make you completely able to forgive all of the things and build you into some superstar, but you could have an awful lot of peace real fast. And you could start to size the world up a little healthier and a little better, and you could be a whole lot more helpful to the people around you. I'm going to leave you with that thought. I'm going to talk no more. And our prayer team, do we have any prayer team? I'll be up here up front if our prayer team hasn't made it in from the storm. But I'm going to pray kind of a general prayer for all of us this morning. I'm just going to ask that we all would consider what God may be speaking to us in this moment. And then I'm going to invite whoever will to come on up to the side wings here, sidelines, and we've got a couple of people up here just going to kick around for as long as you want them to, and they'll just be here waiting in case some of you would like a person to come alongside you and ask with you, somebody who's got a little bit more faith because they're not in the midst of your situation. That's what they're here for, and they're actually, get this, they actually expect something to happen for you. Father, thank you for bringing us here this morning. Thank you for every single person here. It would have been so easy to curl up and sit in a ball this morning and watch the flakes fly and the plows go by, but here we are, and we've made it a priority to seek each other out and to be here for each other. And I just pray, Lord, that you'd bless that by giving us some revelations, Lord. Give us some strength we didn't have before we came in this morning. Pray, Lord, help us to see the troubles that we've experienced and process them the right way. Show us how to have gratitude for your plan, even though we can't appreciate the evil things that have happened. Teach us to walk that walk, Lord. Make us fruitful people that can help, that can guide people closer to you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. As I've said, these guys and girl will be up here for as long as it takes, so take your time. If you don't want to stand around and be seen by people, you can just kind of camp out and be a ninja. You can slide up there and wait till people have gone, but they're going to be here a while. It's a nice snowy day. Listen, I'll be back next week. I'm back in the saddle. It's good to see you. Amen.